All right, for our first tutorial, I thought I'd do something simple like soldering. So I just got in some logic level converters. So I thought I could easily go through that. There's not too many things to solder here, just the two strips on either side. So everything comes with a bare board and your headers. So we have to solder both of these headers on. So you're probably wondering, what is this thing anyways? Well, this is a logic level converter. So your board may produce logic at 3.3 volts DC, but what you're using may want 5 volts DC. So what we do, we use a logic level converter to convert from 3.3 volt logic to 5 volt logic. So you can see we have HV and LV on here. LV is low voltage, being 3.3 coming out of the board, and HV would be high voltage, which would be 5 volts DC in this case. So I've got my Hacko 888D soldering iron, and I'm using the solder that I had previously posted. So I've got this turned up to 750 degrees, which is a little higher than what you would normally use. You should be about 600 to 650, but I like to have it a little higher temperature because it goes a little quicker, and I've been soldering for years, so I'm used to this. But if you start out, stay at about 600, 650 degrees. Now I've got the board mounted to a breadboard to make it easy to solder. So I like to pin down a corner first, and you could see the board rocked a little when I did that. So we pin down one corner and then move to another corner, and that way we get the board flat. And you can actually do all four corners. Now, if you notice here, I'll put a little solder on and then hold the iron there. And if you look close, well, it's hard to see in this video because it is so small. But what happens is the solder initially bubbles up on the top, and then as the heat is applied, the solder drops down through the joint, so it's actually making it all the way to the other side of the board. This ensures that you have a good connection all the way through the board on both sides. You won't be able to see the other side because the header's in the way, but just know that it's there because you'll see the solder drop down. So just continue around the board. Make sure it's comfortable for you. So you can see I rotated it around so I could easily get at the other side, and just continue until you complete both sides of the board. And that is really it. There's not a whole lot more to talk about with soldering. So let's do a close-up here. And you can see the fillets on the joints are nice and round. You'll notice there's a couple of pins that are higher than others. And what that's from is when I pushed them into the breadboard, the pins slid through the header. So it can happen, but it's nothing to be worried about. You'll also notice what looks like a big pool of water on there. And what that is, that's all the melted flux that's left over from the solder. Because remember, there is flux in the core of the solder that we're using. That helps the solder flow easily. So it is there, and for our purposes, it really doesn't matter. We're not in a production environment. We don't really have to clean it off. You can if you want, but it doesn't matter. So that is my first tutorial on soldering. Thanks for watching.